I'm Kelly from Kelly Jones Jewellery. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this pendant. So this is like another version of the last one that I did. I drew out two designs and this is the second one. I just had to share it with you because I love how it turned out. Everything you'll need is in the description below. Let's get started. To make this pendant you'll need 1.2mm wire, which is 16 gauge, and I've cut one length at 6 inches, which is 15 centimeters. You'll need 0.8mm wire. I'm using square, you can use square or round. I'm actually using 21 gauge. So I've cut two lengths at 8 inches, which is 20 centimeters, and two lengths at 4 inches, which is 10 centimeters. I've got a little length of 21 gauge half round wire, that's 3 inches, and you can substitute that for weaving wire if you don't have the half round, and of course you can use round wire as well if you want to. Weaving wire, 0.315mm, that's 28 gauge. I wind mine onto a bobbin. This is a Bobeeze bobbin by Beadsmith. I always mention these because you might see them in the video and think, what is that? So that's what that is. I find those are really handy. Mine are 25mm unweighted. Beads, I've got an 8mm bead. I am going to use a selection of smaller beads, which I will add to the screen. Is that everything? So I'm going to be using this, like this dowel. It's called a dowel. I don't know what I called it in the last video. So this is just, you can use anything. Use whatever you used for the last one. Just to bend your frame around to get that nice circular shape. You can pick these up from any DIY store. I've been told in America and England, and I don't know, I haven't seen them, but I'm sure they're there. What else have we got? So I'm using dowel pliers as well for the thicker wires. All my tools are Tronex, so I've got my pliers, round nose pliers, cutters, nylon pliers. If you don't have nylon pliers, don't worry. These are just handy for straightening weaves and straightening wires and compressing weaves and whatever else you use them for. Mine are Prestige. These are actually really cool. And the ends don't wear as quick as the other ones I was using before, the Beadsmith ones. So I actually really love these. They're just nice to have handy. You know, when your hands are a bit tired and it's a bit hard to bend the wires, you can always use these. They don't mark it. In the jump ring, I'm going to need a little jump ring for this one. This one is 8mm outside measurement, just so you can pop your cord through at the end. So we'll be attaching that to the top. Frame wire. And working from the centre, we're going to bend that around your dowel or whatever it is that you're using. We're going to do a slightly different shape to what we did in the other video. I know I'm calling this version 2. It is like a version 2 of the same thing. I drew them both at the same time, but it's a little bit different with the frame. So we're starting with this kind of shape. I'm going to round those sides off a little bit because they're a bit straight. What we're going to do is we're going to take this top wire, where the wires cross, we're going to bring it out to this side. And we're going to cut that wire, so we want about, I'd say 2.5 centimeters on that wire. My cutters. So I'm using old cutters for the thicker wires because obviously your good Tronex cutters are going to just get mushed with this. So use some heavy duty or some old cutters. So about 2.5 centimeters, and I'm going to cut it off. You are getting in my way. I'm going to cut it, start again, at this angle so it's flat across the top. There's 2.5 about there. We've got that nice flat edge that's sort of on a slant. And the other wire, I'm actually going to bend that in a lot further down because I want the bottom wire, I want this curl further down so it sort of tucks in here. So I could do with bringing it in a bit further. So I'm just going to pull it in a bit closer. And I'm going to bend it here so that it kind of meets lower down. Does that make sense? So this bend is lower than this one. So this curl will sit higher and this one will sit lower. And this one's going to be a lot smaller. So measuring that one from the centre of the bend, we'll go about 1.5. And again, you want to cut it off nice and flat. If you want to, you can file off these sharp ends, because I am going to hammer it a little bit, so you can do that if you want to. So I'm just going to use one of these nail files, and I'm just going to get that sharp edge off. So I've just filed those ends off, so they're nice and not sharp. And then we're going to shape those. So I'm using my bail pliers. I'm going to use this slightly thicker one, and we're going to bend the wire around this way. So I'm using bail pliers because, again, with the thicker wires, you can totally destroy your nice tool. So you need something a bit more heavy duty. You could use some old ones if you don't have bail pliers. I'm going to kind of curl this around and tuck it in there. I'm going to curl this one with the smaller size. And I'm going to just curl that around the other way. So that when you pull them together, the one sits lower than the other one. And you don't have to, but I'm going to hammer that just a little bit around the top and the side. So if you have a hammer and steel block, you can do that if you want to. So I've hammered mine, and now I'm going to get the nail file back out and buff all those marks off. You can use fine sandpaper, but I find with the nail buffer, you know, the square ones, you've got all the different grades, so I like to go down the different grades with it. So I've polished that up to be nice and shiny. Don't forget you have to polish both sides. You only have to hammer one side, but you have to polish both. So I've pulled it back together. Next we'll attach it at the top. So take your little length of half round wire, presuming you've cut all your wires as I have, and we'll go around the middle, so holding them together. We'll take that half round wire around both of the wires, pulling it nice and tight. Go around a couple of times. So I've gone around 3 times, attaching it together in the middle, and then go 3 times around one of the top wires, and 3 times around one of the bottom wires with the other end. Trying to keep the flat side of the wire facing against the frame. When we're all attached, we need to cut the ends, so give it a wiggle. Cut it so it finishes behind. And press those little cut ends down with your pliers. Take your weaving wire. We're going to attach around the bottom here. So go around a couple of times. Oops. And then you want those wires to be the same length. Should have done this before I attach that top together, shouldn't I really? We'll do it here. Now I know the length. We'll do it this way. Because then you want to do that again. So you want that length. I've just got to cut my bobbin off. Post it through. Go through again. Cut that so they're the same size. So we've got 4 wires coming off all together. You want them nice and tightly together. Pinch it at the bottom. And that's where we're going to put our beads on next. So take one of your 3mm beads and pop it onto all of those wires. Slide it right down to the bottom. And then you want your 8mm wire. And another 3mm wire bead. Did I say 8mm wire? Bead. Gotcha. So get it nice and central, and we need to part those wires so whichever way they want to go really. So I'm not actually going to attach these wires at the minute. It's best that we attach our base wires while we've got the space. So we'll just leave that down there for a bit. So presuming you've cut your wires to the same lengths as me, take one of your longer base wires, and we want the centre, so put the ends together and find that centre point there. And we're just going to attach these to our frame at the top here. So I'm just going to give that a little squeeze there. I'm going to pull it round so it's nice and tight around the frame. Take it around again. Gracie snoring already. I say already, that's because I've just started the video and I'm on a new day. So we did all the other part the other day. So I'm just squeezing that around so it grips around the frame nicely. I need both the wires to come up together. And I want them both to sit next to each other, so I'm going to grip the wires here and give them a squeeze so they then are positioned next to each other. So we've got 2 wires joined on that one side. So take your other wire, do exactly the same and attach it to the other side. So we've got like 2 sticking out on each side. So I've added my second wire on that side. So this one is higher and this one is lower. Well, it will be eventually. They are sliding about a bit at the minute. So next we're going to take one of the shorter lengths. back and pick it up. So next we're going to take one of these shorter lengths and we're going to attach one on each side. We just want them to be next to those two, so we've got 3 coming off each side. So what we're going to do is we're just going to wrap that around the frame. So I'm using my round nose pliers to pull it around the frame. And then I'm going to press it around. That should level it up a little bit. Then I'm going to squeeze it around the frame. Got it. Marked my wire a bit. Always handy to have a nail buffer. Get all the marks out. Grab the short length of wire and attach it to the other side. It just needs to be alongside those other two. Just wrap it around the frame, squeeze it in place. So we've now got 3 wires sticking out on each side. So bring your bead back up so it's in position, and you can see now where your wires need to wrap, so they're not in the way of those wires. Just spreading them out quite evenly. Take them around the frame. If you go around loosely to start with, because you don't want your bead to be off centre, if you go around loosely to start with, you can make sure it's in place before you tighten up those wires. And just go around wherever is easiest. And then when they're all wrapped around and they're in place, you can wrap them around again so that they're nice and secure. So I've wrapped those around quite a few times, and I'm going to finish them to be at the front, because on the last one I did, I finished them at the back, and you got all these little, no matter how much you squash them down, you got these little spiky bits sticking out. So we'll finish them at the front, and then they'll get covered by other wires. Finish them at the front and cut them off, press them down, I mean. So that's what I've got so far. 3 wires on each side and my beads attached. So we're going to start with this top right hand wire and holding it in place at the bottom so it doesn't keep moving around. We're going to scoop it around into a lovely big shape. I'm just thinking it would be nice if we twisted the middle wires. It would give it a bit of something extra. I might just twist these middle wires first. So I'm going to leave that one in limbo. So this second wire and the second wire on that side I'm going to twist just to give it that bit of extra something. So I'm going to grip the end with my nylon pliers and pulling away a little bit. I'm going to turn the piece around and around. Right, so going back to our wire, so I'm scooping him around and I want to make a nice big loop shape. bringing the wire over to this side here. And I'm going to take the twisted one. I'm going to bring that one around too. My bead keeps moving over, got to keep an eye on that. So then we take the last wire and pressing around. I like to press into the base of the wire just to get that shape going, and then I like to lean on the wire, so I then sort of press it between my fingers and pull it around. Try and get a tighter one there at the bottom. So we've got 3 scoops coming off onto that side. So the first wire, which is the top one, which is this inner one, I'm bringing that across to the side, and I'm going to scoop that one around so it goes outside the frame. It comes in at the bottom here. So where it comes in there at the bottom, I'm going to take that around the frame. So I'm bending it from the end so I don't misshape it too much. Pop it through there and then try and get that shape back. The second one, the twisted one, I'm going to bring that around to come over the not twisted wire, around the bottom one. Hold on. So it's going to come and sit here inside. I'm going to take that through. Just reshape that before I finalise it. So I want it to come through to sit on the inside of that wire. Check that end as well. And this last one that's trying to escape, getting back up into position. I've leant on them all a bit too much here, so I need to push them forward a bit from the other side. This one is going to go around. I'm just going to secure these wires a bit at the bottom because they keep moving. So the first one that I was happy with, I'm going to take that around again. And I need to have a look at the bead and make sure that hasn't moved too. So get that, wrap that around and press it into place so we know that's going to stay there. And then this one comes around next to it, trying to hold it in place as I take it around. So the third one, I'm going to take it straight around the frame, holding it there. I'm going to scoop it around in the inside of these two. and then take it around the frame there. You really can do what you want with these wires, just have a play with bringing them around and seeing how they sit. So I've just shaped that middle wire and pulled it out to the side. My fingers are black, and I shall leave that there for a bit while I do the other side. But you really can do whatever you want with these wires once you've attached them. You're just travelling from the top to the bottom. You can go in any direction you want. So let's do this side. I'm going to do something very similar. So I'm going to take the top one and I'm going to bring it around. We just need to take into account that we're a bit lower down, so we've not got quite as much room, and I don't want the wires to be crossing over the other wires. So I'm going to bring it around. And the other one. A bit tighter. And the last one, even tighter, so we need a little tiny curl on this one. So I've got 3 coming off that side too. So starting with this inner wire, I'm just going to scoop it around right next to the frame, if I can grab it, right next to the frame, so it kind of follows the frame. Like that, and then I'm going to pop it through. So I use the 21 gauge instead of the 20 gauge on the square, just because it's a little bit easier to handle. So I bought my square wire from Rio, and I do find that the 20 gauge a bit tough on your fingers, a bit tough on your nails. So I've been using the 21, and it's lovely. So I prefer that. With the round wire, I tend to stick with the 0.8, which would be the 20 gauge, but I get that from the UK and that's a lot softer. So I wouldn't go any smaller on the round. If you're using round wire, I would go for the 0.8, the 20 gauge, but with the square, because it's a bit tougher, I'd go for the 21. So because that's where I want it to be, I'm going to go around again. Didn't need to straighten that then, that's because I was talking. So I've just altered it a little bit, so as it wraps around I've got a little bit of a gap there, so that I'm going to bring the next wire around. I'm going to follow that wire and I'm going to bring it into that gap. And then I'm going to take it around the frame. Then I'm going to take that wire around so it holds properly in place. Didn't like that twisted wire crossing over that one, so I've changed it a little bit. So this little one here, holding that in place at the top, I'm going to do the same as what we did for the other side. So we take it straight around the frame, holding it in place, pull it right up, and then we want to follow that same scoop that we've already got. And then take the wire back through and wrap around the frame. But as I wrap around, I'm going to wrap around the middle here so I can finish this wire and it's out the way then. So I've pulled this wire through, and I think it might be easier to shape the wire, cut it, and then just bend it around with your round nose pliers, save pulling all this length through, as that was quite a struggle. So I've cut that wire off and wrapped it around the frame there, in between the scoop shape. So I've wrapped that little one around. I've got the twisty one coming around here. I've made a little gap there. So holding the twisty one in place, I'm going to go around through there. So it kind of matches the other side. I'm starting to think twice about this wire being easier to handle. I think the 20 gauge would have been even tougher than this. This wire is really tough. So make sure your bead is nice and central, and we're going to take these two twisty wires next. So I'm going to take the twisty wire and I'm bringing it around to scoop over the front like that. I'm going to take the same on the other side. So take that twisty one and scoop that around. We're going to try and match up the shapes. Is that even possible? So move your wires around, have a look at how it sits, and try and match those two shapes up. You want to reach the middle of those scoops so we've got a bit of frame to attach to. Then take your bare wire that isn't twisted, and we're going to follow it. Now I'm going to possibly run out of wire, so I'm going to advise that you start with slightly longer wires. I never do know how it's going to turn out until I get to the end. I've got an idea of what I want to do, but it always ends up a little bit differently. Take this one around as well. I'm pushing back on it before I'm bringing it around so I can really exaggerate that scoop shape. And then take it slow and try and match it up to the other side. So what we're going to do next is, your twisty wires are going to attach to the frame in those spaces, and the bare wires are going to attach to the twisty wires and end up in little curls at the sides. That's the plan. So it's best to attach them first, and then we'll attach the twisty wires and have another look at it. So take some weaving wire. So we're going to attach to the twisted wire. We want to attach before it finishes, so about there. We'll go around 2 wires. Go around 2 wires 5 times, and then finish around the twisted wire 3 times. Cut that off at both ends and press the little cut ends down. Do the same for the other side. Need to attach the twisted wire to that frame in the middle. Keep checking on the shape as you pull the wire around, because it can very easily pull out of shape. Do the same for this twisted wire on this side. So it has ended up quite different to what I planned, and then we can just curl these. I'm going to curl these wires to kind of sit sort of either in this gap or a little bit higher here. And we can attach them to the top there or wherever that works. The wire's quite short. Just cutting that nasty end off of it. So I've curled those wires. I've tried to get them the same height. So now I'm going to attach the wire to the frame, and to fill this gap here I'm going to use a little 3mm bead. So I'm going to attach it to the frame, pop a bead on and attach to the curl. So I've attached my curls down with beads. I just need to add the jump ring to the top there, and I'll just run and oxidise that. I think to stop my bead from keep moving about at the bottom, I'm going to wrap a bit of weaving wire around that frame either side just to keep it in the middle, because it's going to keep moving around. So there we have it, finished. I've oxidised mine. If you'd like help oxidising yours, I did a video on oxidising and aftercare. I'll put a link in the description below. So I hope you found this video easy to follow. Whoop, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now. Bye. Please subscribe if you haven't already.